So welcome to this video on structuring your verbal sales pitch. This is part of the Perfecting the Verbal Sales Pitch video series. Be sure to watch the other videos that are part of this series. My name is Julie O'Brien and I'm a Fáilte Ireland trainer. I'm delighted to speak to you about delivering your verbal pitch and showing you some key steps and tips that will help you when engaging with leisure buyers. For me, there are 10 key steps that you need to be mindful of. The first and most important is a good warm welcome and a nice introduction. Hello, my name is Julie O'Brien. It's so lovely to meet you, Johan. I've been looking forward to speaking with you today. Make sure and make the buyer feel welcome and relaxed from the outset. After that, you might look at routing the customer, at showing the buyer what you have for sale, your core, your premium and your supplementary products. You might weave in some live examples like, I had a German group with me last week and they loved this experience because. There are a couple of must-ask questions that you always need to know to ask a buyer. It is really important to research and listen. Always remember local. Never leave a buyer appointment without asking for the business. And always be sure to follow up. There is no point in showing up to meet a buyer unless you follow up. In the following slides, we'll take a look at a couple of these points in more depth. Do keep in mind that as you're speaking to the buyer is mentally assessing, are you easy to work with? Are you reliable? Would you let them or their customers down? Can they see the experiences available for sale? Remember, the buyer is looking to buy, so you need to be clear on what you're selling. Finally, they're mentally assessing if your experience is a match for the markets and customers that they look after. Now we're going to take a look at the importance of mapping your product within the destination. So in Ireland, we tend to be a bit relaxed and we go off on our hack with our verbal pitch as if the buyer already understands who we are and where we're from. But it's really important to make the buyer feel comfortable as if their 2 feet are properly on the ground. Remember, it is all about product within the context of its destination. So show the buyer where your experience is based. Point to it on a map and show your location. Indicate its proximity to an iconic location, an urban area, another iconic visitor attraction, a coastline, a beautiful rural landscape. Drop in a comment to reinforce the context. I remember when I used to work as a buyer, a wonderful lady in the west of Ireland saying to me, I am so lucky to wake up to this beautiful location every day. And then she showed me a fantastic image to reinforce that location. I can tell you I immediately wanted to buy that lady's experience because her passion created a passion within me. And as I just said there, all of the words that you choose to define the experience offered by your business, make sure and reinforce those words with excellent visual images that really allow the buyer to picture what your experience is all about. Do remember local. Our foreign visitors truly want to understand what it means to be Irish and live on this island. I remember once having visited an experience in Youghal that the visitor attraction said to me, after this visit now, you should go and buy an ice cream and take a stroll along Youghal Strand. That's what local people love to do. That's just a genius insight for a global buyer and their customers because they want to experience those local secrets that people know in their respective areas. Now let's move on to looking at how we should define the business and set out the market stall for each business. I have a very simple trick for doing this. When we're preparing to meet buyers, sit yourself in front of a Word document and create 2 columns. On one side, write mental images and on the other side, write bullet points. Your bullet points are the practicalities, such as your minimum, maximum numbers, duration, that kind of thing. On the other side, you choose words that clearly paint a picture of the experience. Once you have created those words, practice using them, and the aim is to drip feed them into conversation with the buyer as though you have not practiced. And as you choose those words, the buyer will build up a mental image, a mental picture of the experience that you are providing. In Ireland, I tend to find that we focus a lot on the practicalities, on the bullet points when we're pitching to buyers. But that's not where the passion is. That is not where the soul of your experience lies. It is most important to carefully choose words so that the buyer can envisage the experience that you are offering. And again, with all the words we choose, we pick strong visual images so that both our verbal language and the visual images that we are using reinforce the experience that is available to the buyer and their customers. Please do not forget to set out your market stall. As a business, you are there to sell. The buyer wants to hear what you're selling so they can assess if it is the right match for their customer and markets. I find it's very useful for experiences to lay out their market stall in terms of general tours or experiences and premium tours and experiences. General tours tend to be at a lower price point. They appeal to visitors who have a lower budget, but also to visitors who just have a general interest in a particular subject. Premium tours and experiences, by comparison, appeal to visitors who have a higher budget and also to those visitors who have a very specific interest in the kind of experience your business offers. Now we'll take a look at effective questioning, the importance of preparation and researching. I would highly recommend that you never go into a buyer appointment without having done your research. So before you meet a buyer, you need to be clear on the opportunity that is available to you and your business. To establish this, you firstly need to know what kind of buyer is sitting in front of you. And of course, there are multiple types of professional travel buyers, such as tour operators who sell Ireland as a holiday destination to their customers in global markets. Wholesalers, these are huge travel companies who tend to buy bed spaces and visitor attraction experiences in huge numbers. Online travel agents, where global and domestic visitors can book accommodation, visitor experiences, car hire and flights. You may very well be sitting in front of a buyer that represents the MICE market. In this case, the customers are corporate and they are looking for meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions. Some buyers operate in one of these spaces and some buyers cross these spaces. So, for example, you may very well meet a buyer who operates as a tour operator in leisure tourism and also as a buyer in business tourism looking for MICE experiences. It is really important to establish what kind of customers the buyers have. For example, a tour operator can have 3 customer types: an FIT, a fully independent traveller, ad hoc groups, otherwise known as special interest groups, or tour series. An online travel agent may very well deliver leisure and corporate customers to your business. A buyer in MICE, in business tourism, will be able to deliver you customers interested in incentive, conference, events, corporate meetings. So it is clearly important that we establish what buyer type we are engaging with and what customer types they have available to your business, so we can then establish what the opportunity is. Finally, it is really important to understand that not all buyers operate in all global markets. Professional travel buyers are in the business of needs and nuances, and they engage in markets where they have a thorough understanding of those needs and nuances. It is therefore also crucial that a business understands what markets the professional travel buyer operates in. There are a couple of key things that we need to understand when we're engaging with buyers. For example, if we are referring to tour operators, we need to know that global travel companies can work in 2 ways. Firstly, global travel companies may very well contract directly with your business. This is often the case for buyers who are English speaking and who are probably close to destination Ireland. So not always, but in most cases, Great Britain travel buyers tend to contract directly with Ireland businesses. A huge proportion of international travel agents actually work in partnership with tour operators. So for example, you may have an international travel company in France who engages with a local Ireland tour operator or perhaps a tour operator in Great Britain to contract your business. It is most important to understand how the international travel company operates so your business can establish who you need to contract with. To that end, I would recommend that you practice a question something like this. Do you contract directly with the Ireland market, or do you work in partnership with a local tour operator? It is crucial that you establish the outcome to this question every time you meet a buyer. So remember, when you're meeting buyers, there are must-ask questions. Like the one I just explained there, how does the buyer contract? There are other must-ask buyer questions, particularly for tour operators, as follows. So I would always ask a buyer, what are your key travel periods? I would have also assessed when my business actually needs more customers. So let's just say the buyer tells me that his customers travel in high number in July and August, and I know that my business sells very well in July and August. I might say something like, look, to be honest, I could sell my business twice over in July and August, but if you are able to send me customers from October through to March, I would be willing to give you space in July and August also. So by knowing when your business needs customers, and by knowing when the buyer's customers travel, you can trade to try and build out 52-week generation for your business. It is most important to establish what kind of rates the buyers require. Some buyers require net rate, which means a discount off your public rate. Other buyers may request commissionable rate, and some buyers request both. So you need to know how they price and what kind of rates they're looking for. For me, when I worked within hotels and visitor attractions and a buyer offered me a tour series, I would always ask, look, is this an established series or is it a test series? So an established series means it's a series that's operated for a number of years and the buyer will have information on the performance of that series. A test series is a new series, and like anything new, it can take a couple of years to take off. I'd probably still opt to support the buyer with the test series. I just might want to understand in advance if there would be a high reduction in numbers on that series. So I'd want to be informed about that, and I would therefore ask that question. Now we'll move on to asking for the business and follow up. Please be brave when you're meeting buyers. Do not leave a buyer appointment without asking them if there is an opportunity to do business or not. Every time I leave a business appointment with a buyer, I always note in my head and in writing whether this was a yes, no, or maybe opportunity. Some of the questions you might ask to establish this are, do you think our experience would interest your clients? Do you think there might be an opportunity for us to work together? Do you imagine it would be possible to program our experience in a tour series program? We would love that. Do you think that you could send some ad hoc groups our way? So now we'll take a quick look at how we might respond to a buyer's reply to a question such as this. Let's just say they say no. Don't worry about it. You pick yourself up and you smile and you say back, oh, that's disappointing. But let's keep in contact. You never know, we might have the pleasure of working with you sometime in the future. And oddly enough, in my own past, sometimes buyers have said no, and I've ended up working with them anyway because they've established an opportunity with a particular customer. So always be professional, polite and friendly. You never know when that contact will arise again. If they say yes, show that you are delighted. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to hear that. Remember, in the world of buyers, this is all about matching. At a trade show like Mehel this year, there were 350 buyers. Not all of those buyers can be a match for every business in Ireland. The job for the business is simply to seek out the buyers who are a match. A lot of businesses ask, should I leave a gift or not when I meet a buyer? I think it's nice to leave a gift because it just is a kindness and it reinforces a positive meeting. Having said that, it doesn't have to be an expensive gift. I think thoughtful. Think of a little gift that reflects your experience or that reinforces your destination. The buyer will really appreciate something like that. Please, I cannot emphasize this highly enough. Follow up with the buyer. If a business has gone to such trouble to prepare to meet the buyer, to ask the right questions, to establish there is a connection, be aware that a lot more steps are needed to achieve the conversion. And this is where the follow-up comes into play. When you meet a buyer, be kind. Realize that they have busy lifestyles and they are often traveling the world. So be sure to ask the buyer when they would like to receive follow-up information. You may meet them on the 1st of one month and they may tell you that they need to receive that information at the end of the month. And that's grand. You diary the date that they have asked you to send the information, and then you send that information on the agreed date. Remember, the buyer is trying to assess if you are reliable, if you would let the buyer or their customers down. So we want to show the buyer in our follow-up that we are professional. In my experience, achieving a conversion with a buyer is about establishing a lot of little connections. So while I would follow up with my business information on the date agreed with the buyer, I would also aim to send an email to the buyer on the day or within 24 hours. It would say something like, "Dear Johan, it was so lovely to meet you yesterday. I was delighted to hear that you are interested in working with our business. As agreed, I will send you further information at the end of this month. I am really looking forward to working with you in the future." The tone we always aim to strike with buyers is professional and friendly. After doing a great job meeting the buyers, researching, establishing the opportunity, asking the right question, we now move to conversion. The buyer sends us their first booking. This is not the time to relax. Businesses need to be aware that the buyer books, the end customer experiences. If the end customer has a positive experience, this generates positive feedback that goes back to the buyer. And this is the cha-ching moment. This is when traction happens. Positive feedback means positive word of mouth. And that's when the buyer feels more confident about booking your business. So this is where they are likely to book again and repeat visits and bookings are generated. So please always be aware that while it is very important to mind the buyer, it is crucially important to mind the end customer. In hospitality, we are in the business of creating happy memories, so we need to make sure that the end customer leaves happy so that the buyer feels compelled to book again. On a final note, I'd like to say thank you for watching. For further information, please do go to the training and support section on the Fáilte Ireland website, www.fáilteireland.ie.